of the wrinkle reduction on one side of a man's face after using this for 7 weeks. Tell us about that, please.
Growing out of Shackley's research on antioxidant vitamins, we learned that the skin does not receive any of the antioxidant vitamins that are taken orally. So we put together a team of cosmetic researchers to find a way to hold antioxidant vitamins together stable in a cream where when you put them on your face, they actually delivered the nutrients to your skin cells. Thus the name Infusel, because it actually infuses 7 antioxidant nutrients into the skin cells. And the purpose was to stop the accelerated aging in the skin. And it does do that. It blocks every known cause of accelerated aging. It was a surprise to us, though, during the largest clinical study ever done on a skincare product to find that not only did it block the causes of accelerated aging, but it reversed the visible damage that had been done. In fact, in 2 weeks, we saw a reduction of fine lines. In 4 weeks, with one of the creams, a 421% reduction in wrinkles, and a 154% increase in skin firmness or elasticity. And the picture that you're looking at is a man who put it on, he decided to use it on one half of his face and really test it. And what happened, you can see, is the result of 7 weeks of using it just on one half of his face. And he was so impressed with the results that he went to a professional photographer to record it. We are presenting this line to the American Board of Dermatology in March at their next board meeting, because we're also seeing some remarkable healing effects take place. People with rosacea, people with even skin cancers are seeing some changes that are very beneficial with the introduction of the antioxidant nutrients. It's pretty exciting.
Well, Jenny, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you stopping on your way through Pensacola to visit us, and it's been good to see you again. And I'd like to know if people have questions about nutrition and health. A lot of people, the subject is too complicated for them. It's like there's so much to learn. There's so many vitamins out there, and I don't want to learn it all. I just wanted somebody to tell me what to do. Can people call you and ask you questions? I know you're not the world's expert, but the smartest person I know on the subject. And can people call you and ask questions about their health and what they can do? And what is your phone number, if you would, please?
I may not be able to answer all their questions, but I would certainly welcome the call, and I usually know where to look to find answers if I don't know them.
And what is your number there in Arkansas?
1-800-345-1140.
All right.
Okay.
Well, thank you for joining us. My name is Kent Hovind from Pensacola, Florida, and this is Dr. Larry Tyler from Washington, Missouri. And he's a chiropractor.
Yes.
How long have you been in chiropractic?
I've been a chiropractor for 15 years now.
15 years.
15 years.
I have been to thousands of chiropractors, and you fixed my back, brother. It was awesome. So I thought I'd put together a video on the Bible and health. And you call your seminar, when you speak on this topic, Polar Bears, Bumblebees, and Healthcare. Why is that?
Well, the story of the polar bears comes about trying to open up people's minds.
Okay.
We have been brainwashed. We've been brainwashed in lots of areas of our lives, and healthcare is not an exception to that rule. The polar bear story goes like this. The city of Denver was given a gift back in the early 80s. It was a polar bear cub, and it was shipped to them in a transport cage. And this polar bear cub had the room to take about 3.5 shuffle steps in one direction, and it kind of turned around and took 3.5 shuffle steps back the other way. And that was all the room that this polar bear cub had. Well, the people who know polar bears went to the city of Denver and said, hey, you better get this polar bear out of this cage real soon, otherwise it's going to suffer damage that's going to last a lifetime. Well, in the infinite wisdom of bureaucracy, it took about 8 years for them to complete the building of the Denver Zoo. And the big day came around, they had their polar bear exhibit all ready to go, and meanwhile this polar bear had spent the last 8 years taking 3.5 shuffle steps and then 3.5 shuffle steps back, because that's all the room it had now. Well, the day came around, they opened up the new exhibit, and they opened up the door, and what happened? The polar bear took 3.5 steps, stopped, and then took 3.5 shuffle steps back. And to this day, that bear is still at the Denver Zoo, and all it does is take 3.5 shuffle steps forward and 3.5 shuffle steps back. It has been so programmed that its entire universe at this point is based on the polar bear cage.
Okay.
Everywhere it looks, it sees the polar bear cage.
All right.
Now, they've been able to distract the polar bear every now and then. If they give it a big old salmon, okay, or give it a pine tree to play with, well, it can get distracted and it will kind of wander out of its zone a little bit. But the very next day, it's back to the same old way because that's the way it's always done things. That's been its entire existence. Well, for the last 100, 150 years now, our entire healthcare system has been based on allopathic principles. Okay, feel bad, take a pill. Feel real bad, take another pill. And if it gets real bad, then we'll just cut it out.
Right.
And that's the whole mindset of healthcare in the United States these days. So I tell people the polar bear story in order to challenge them to open up their mind. If all you're going to go through life is looking at the polar bear cage, okay, then you're never going to change any of the patterns and any of the things that's happening.
Right.
And the state of health right now in the United States is not exactly anything to be proud of.
Correct.
I mean, we spend a whole lot of money on health care, but we're ranked 20th or 21st in the list of industrialized nations as far as the health care of our population is concerned. We have more diseases now than we've ever had. Cancer and autoimmune diseases are running through the roof. Okay, we are living a little bit older, but that's not because we're healthier. We're living a little bit older because we've gotten pretty good at repairing trauma,
right.
And that's caused a statistical shift. Okay, so I start off with polar bears, just trying to challenge people to open up their minds and not fall into the polar bear cage. Another way I've analogized that is, you know, if you get in a boat in St. Louis and you travel downstream, well, you end up in New Orleans. And if you get back up in the boat in St. Louis and go downstream, you end up in New Orleans. You know, and every time you get in a boat in St. Louis and go downstream, you're going to end up in New Orleans.
Right.
And that's okay if you want to go to New Orleans. But if you want to end up someplace different, say Chicago, okay, well then you better do something other than get in a boat underneath the arch and travel downstream. Mm-hmm. And that's what's happening. You know, every 20 years or so, the medical community comes out with a new magic bullet. You know, here, take this pill, it's going to cause our problem or solve our problems. And then another 20 years later, they'll come back and say, well, we've got a new drug to solve that problem. And we've got a new drug to solve that problem. And we've gone through several generations of antibiotics and pain relievers and all these other drug therapies, and we keep ending up in the same place, unhealthy and sick.
Right.
Dying of chronic diseases that we really shouldn't be dealing with at this point.
Well, and they keep making money along the way.
Oh, and they keep making money along the way, absolutely. Matter of fact, this year in 1998, the pharmaceutical companies were kind of bragging that they made more money in the first 6 months of this year, a percentage increase, than they've ever had in the history of the pharmaceutical industries.
I read a great book on how Rockefeller used to sell oil, regular crude oil, as you know, snake oil, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
To heal everything, cure all. And that's how he got rich.
Oh, yeah.
Selling bottles of this stuff, and he really has got a profound influence on the pharmaceuticals.
Yeah. Yeah. The pharmaceutical industry is, well, I mean, first off, it's being regulated by the FDA, which is made up of former pharmaceutical executives.
Sure.
Okay, so you know, you've got the proverbial fox watching the hen house, and what happens is you know, they come up with a new drug. They've just spent millions of dollars, maybe billions of dollars, developing this new chemical compound. Okay, and it may be beneficial for altering some chemical states, change the way the body's working. Okay, but that doesn't make it beneficial to the whole system.
Right.
You know, a lot of times we are dying from our cures as opposed to dying from our diseases.
Oh, that's the truth.
And the pharmaceutical industry is right in the middle of that. That's just where their head is.
Well, as a creationist, of course, I'm interested in how God fits into all this. The Bible says, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth.
Yes.
So if God created it, He must have a plan, must have an order to it. And I teach in my seminars that God told Adam and Eve what to eat and what not to eat. And you and I have been talking earlier about how that the whole world is made up of simply a few basic atoms.
The universe as we know it is made up of 96 elements.
Right.
And those are all the pieces that He used to make everything.
Similar to 26 letters of the alphabet make all the books ever written in English.
Yes.
And the same basic elements make up all the structures of the universe. And the human body, you said, has basically a pretty high percentage of just a few of these elements.
Right. And basically, 96% of the human body is made up of 4 different elements.
Okay.
Okay. The other 4% is made up of 22 others.
Okay.
Okay. So the basic design and building of our system is made up of 26 elements. Now we use a few more in its everyday maintenance and running of it.
Right.
Okay, the fuel, if you will.
Sure.
Okay, but the building blocks is basically consisting of 26 elements.
See, the Bible says God made man of the dust of the ground.
Yes, and breathed life into him.
And breathed life into him. So we're just made out of the dust of the ground. Now the systems of the body, there's numerous different systems. And when I taught biology and anatomy, I compared it to a car. You can study a car system by system. Study the brake system. Study the propulsion system. Study whatever. And then you learn how to integrate the systems.